Auburn needs a quarterback, but who's going to be the guy? Welcome on into the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. I'm your host, Mike G, and joining me as he does every single week is my guy, Kyle Rush, Auburn recruiting and portal expert extraordinaire. Kyle, it's portal season, and rumors are flying rampant on social media right now about who's going to be the guy at quarterback. There are a number of visits scheduled. Let's jump right into this. Ashton Daniels is rumored to be paying a visit. A lot of fans up in uproar over this, but I see him more as a depth piece than anything.
No, for sure. Like, people got to realize, okay, two things this doesn't mean, okay? I keep seeing this a lot. This is what I see. Number one, it doesn't mean Auburn doesn't like Walker White or Deuce Knight, okay, for bringing in this guy. Number two, Auburn has to have 4 quarterbacks. Like, you can't go into a season with less than 4 scholarship quarterbacks. If this kid who's played as a starter in a Power 4 conference wants to come back home, essentially, he's from Buford High School, he's from Atlanta. If he wants to come back and spend his last season here and compete for, playing time, and understand that Auburn's going to try to bring in at least one more big name guy to be the starter or compete to be the starter, I'm all for it. I mean, what is in the grind of a whole season? You could have injuries, things like that. Why not have a guy who's played big time college football, he's won some pretty big games and played good against some really good competition. It seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah. Looking at his stats, the stats don't jump off the paper, but if you're looking for a guy who's going to be a depth piece for you, who has experience, and it occurs to me that's what Auburn needs. You need a backup that's got actual experience, because if you should so happen to find yourself in a position where you're starting Walker White or Deuce Knight, the person that you bring in cannot also be a guy who has not had any experience in game. I think that's a precarious situation for any team to find themselves in. So we agree. Ashton Daniels' depth piece here. He's not being brought. If you bring this guy in, he's not competing for the starting job seriously.
No, I mein, he shouldn't be. If that's the guy that's going to be your starter, I think there's going to be a lot of people that would be there'd be a lot of question marks. But I think you've already started to see some of the other quarterback visits start to get lined up, and they make a lot more sense as far as going in, being that number one guy. So yeah, I would not freak out over the Ashton Daniels thing. Like, don't scare him away. Like, Auburn needs that guy. Auburn needs that guy. If he wants to come be a backup and just compete and be happy to be home and, maybe get some playing time here or there, like, by all means, you gotta how hard do you think that is to recruit a guy out of the portal to come without a promise of a starting job, when he could probably go, he'd probably have to go down, but he probably could go elsewhere and get a starting job. That's going to be tough. If he wants to come, don't scare him off. We need those bodies in the quarterback room.
Moving on down the list, I understand Jackson Arnold is paying Auburn a visit. I saw somewhere where he was being linked to the Mississippi State job as well. What do you think about Jackson Arnold? You and I talked before we started recording it. He didn't strike me as a good fit for Hugh Freeze's system.
Well, see, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like he's a perfect fit for this Hugh Freeze system, and this is why. One thing about Hugh's offense is when you have to read and make those quick decisions, a lot of times you're not going to have just like the most perfect. You're not going to be in the most perfect fundamental setup. It's quick release, get it out, have to throw from multiple arm angles, and that's what I see when I watch him play. And then you obviously throw in the running aspect of it and the ability to make plays with your legs. He was a 5-star plus player on 3. He was like the number 6 overall player in the whole class.
5-star quarterback for sure.
Yeah, and they that offense was a complete disaster. They fired a bunch of people, had a bunch of injuries. If you're just recruiting, or if you're just looking at the stat sheet, it would be a big gamble. It would be a big gamble if that's the guy that you choose to go with. But I even almost look at him almost like maybe even some insurance just in case maybe you miss on, maybe one of your top prospects. But if you have him competing in the room, I think Auburn can do a ton worse than Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, look, a guy with SEC experience, again, as we mentioned, former 5-star. I wonder, though, if the multiple years of eligibility that he has left is a problem. I mean, it looks like Auburn's in a position where they're looking for maybe a 1-year stopgap to your Deuce Knight or your Walker White or whoever else you may bring in. But is this a good decision from an eligibility standpoint?
It's a great question because in theory, you're right. He's going to have multiple years to play. So how does that affect the room? I was also looking for maybe a 1-year stopgap guy, but the more that you look at who's available and who can be out there and who can help you compete, for, other than just trying to have a winning season, who can help you compete for, maybe get in the playoff discussion. I don't know that they're that 1-year guy is out there. Jackson Arnold will be a 3-year player. So I guess in theory, if he were to pop and go off, he could have some draft consideration, but all likelihood, he's probably going to be here 2 years. So yeah, you could have some shakeup, probably not now, but you could have some shakeup after next season in the quarterback room if he ends up winning the job and he's going to play multiple years.
Moving on down the list of quarterbacks who we know are likely scheduled for a visit, Maalik Murphy. This is a name you like a lot, a Blue Devil quarterback up there at Duke. What do you think about Maalik Murphy and the chances that Auburn lands him?
So he's actually coming in. He's today. If this is Wednesday. He's coming in today. So one of the very first visit days, you're bringing him in as your first quarterback. And he's kind of come out of the blue, no pun intended. But there was a connection to Malik 2 years ago. There was a connection to Malik 2 years ago when he was at Texas. I think before Auburn ended up with Peyton Thorne. I think there was a lot of hope that maybe he would go into the portal. And I think Texas, if you remember, he put out this thing, hey, I'm sticking with Texas. He signed a big NIL deal, took a big bag to stay. And then the following season, he went to Duke. And this past season, he went to Duke and threw for nearly 3,000 yards in his very first year of being a starting quarterback. And they won 9 games, I think. I think they went 9-3. Pretty solid. And look, he's got the most NFL. He's, to me, the most NFL prototype quarterback that you could ask for. You're talking 6'5", 220, 230, rocket arm. The one thing about him and I don't think that this is something that Hugh Freeze has to have is mobility. But I think one thing that if you had to put a knock on him, he's not going to be much of a mobile threat. He's going to be your read the defense, make the right decisions, distribute the ball. Don't expect him. I think he can run if he has to, but I wouldn't expect him to be a guy that's going to, gas you for 15, 20 yards if he escapes the pocket. You know what I mean? So, but man, he's a good looking quarterback. He's got all the measurables that you can ask for. And he comes in, he's here today. So typically those first visits mean a lot. And if Auburn can close the deal with that kid today, you're really going to make some headlines and you're going to send some shockwaves, I think, across the country. And those wide receivers will be pumped up. I think, and it's kind of interesting. They brought him in the same day as they're bringing in the number 1 wide receiver in the portal, Eric Singleton Jr. We may talk about him in a minute, but yeah, it's a pretty good, a lot different than it was last year. I'll just say this. It's a lot different than it was last year. You had in the first week last year, you only have 5 guys period visit from the portal visitors in the first week. You got 5 guys on Wednesday, the third day of the portal this week. And
the Will Redmond effect, right? You're calling this the Will Redmond effect.
The Will Redmond effect is in full effect, for lack of better words.
Look, Maalik Murphy, what I love about this guy, it's a guy you previously considered, and it's somebody that's known to them and that they've been looking at for a while. He's got a beautiful deep ball, and I think with your Cam Colemans and your Perry Thompsons, You got to be excited if this is the guy that they're talking about bringing in. I have to believe, Kyle, that there's been a lot of communication between this staff and the Freeze Four about who's going to throw them the ball next year.
Yep.
You and I talked on previous episodes about the chance that Perry Thompson may have been looking elsewhere. He kind of reaffirmed his commitment to Auburn on social media. There was a fake report about Cam Coleman that made all of college.
That was the best troll of all time.
Yeah, lost
that was
their
great
mind.
work.
Oh, goodness. And then, you've got Malcolm Simmons, who turned into a bona fide star this year. Bryce Kane is the next man up. They really like him. He was making plays in camp, just too crowded for him to make the field this year at the slot. You got to feed these guys, and you got to sell them that they're going to get the ball and get it more accurately and more often than they did last year. Now, my last thing before we move on here, Maalik Murphy potentially presents the same challenge as far as eligibility is concerned that Jackson Arnold does.
Yeah, he is. This is his third year, I believe. He may be one class ahead of Jackson Arnold. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not 1,000% sure on his eligibility, but he may be 1 year different than Jackson Arnold. So maybe that helps a little bit. But he would probably be a multi-year player. But I mean, any of these guys could come in and pop one time and maybe hit the draft. So, but with them sort of building it, Maalik has a little bit more film now that he could show to scouts. He's got 1 year, again, a full season as a starter. He could come do it in the SEC, and maybe he could be a one and done.
Yeah, look,
they're going to love his measurables. The NFL are going to love how he spins it. He's a prototype NFL quarterback.
You've got to hit a home run. You got to hit a home run at QB. This is mission critical for Auburn in year 3 of the Hugh Freeze era, and they've just got to hit a home run here. Fortunately, some names are starting to emerge that are getting fans a little bit more excited about the prospects. Not a lot of sexy names early, Kyle, but
sure.
Certainly, they're getting sexier as we speak. Look. Something near and dear to my heart I want to talk about. But before we do, I want to give you the floor. Anything else we should be looking out for, at wide receiver? You talked about some guys they're probably bringing in. Who are the hot names left in the portal that Auburn's targeting right now?
Yeah. So look, like I said, you went from 5 visits in a week's time to you got 5 visits on one of the first days. So I think over the next couple of days, Auburn's going to have the number 1 wide receiver, the number 1 tight end, and the number 1 running back coming in to visit over the next 4 or 5 days in the portal. So you got a really sharp running back coming in I think on Wednesday as well. You got one coming in again on Monday. Ahmad Hardy, that's the number 1 running back in the portal from Louisiana Monroe that we played against. He comes in on Monday. Heavy offense. It feels like offense is the focus here. You're going to have a lot of offensive linemen. You may be on commit watch with a guy this weekend for a really solid interior offensive lineman. You got to have one. His name's Wendell Moe Jr. from Arizona. I would be watching him. And then there's going to be multiple tackles that come in, but offense is the theme. And that's, which is kind of crazy, but offense is the side of the ball that needs the most attention. And I think you can see that played out in the visits that are scheduled. And there's a lot of interesting guys. Like there's a guy named Clev Lubin who had 9.5 sacks last year for Coastal Carolina. One of the top edge players in the country coming in. Like there's a bunch of really neat prospects that are coming in. And I mean, it's hard to keep up with all of them because there's so many coming in like right off the bat. And those early visits are so important. But it'll be, you just buckle up because there's a lot going on.
Look, so much to talk about. You're going to be back with me next week, I'm sure, recapping some amazing land that Auburn's got.
We're going to have a bunch of commits to discuss next week.
Oh, man, listen, those receivers have to eat next year.
Yes.
And you know what? We got to eat, too. And when we do, we're doing it over at Los Amigos Mexican Restaurant, Kyle.
Yes.
Visit them at 1220 Fox Run Ave, Suite 200 in Opelika, Alabama. If you're in the Auburn, Opelika area and you're looking for something great to eat, Los Amigos has you covered. They've got TVs. It's a great place to watch the game. TVs everywhere. Great burrito. I recommend the burrito. The burrito is fantastic, as is the queso dip, but they've been serving the community here forever. We appreciate them for sponsoring this segment. Please, again, go visit them at 1220 Fox Run Ave, Suite 200 in Opelika, Alabama. And after you're done with all that eating, our friends at Joy Mode have you covered for a different kind of fun. Visit tryjoymode.com and try to please your lady this holiday season. Look,
could be a dangerous combination.
Look, everybody's got a gift waiting for them under the Christmas tree. Our guy Justin Timberlake and wrote a whole song about this. But look, use code report to get 20% off plus free shipping for a supplement that, like your favorite greens pack, you can put in 6 to 8 ounces of water 45 minutes before the boom boom time, and bam, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you. Tryjoymode.com. Use code report to get 20% off plus free shipping. Look, they announced first team all SEC. I wanted to talk about this to close out today's segment. Ryan Williams made first team all SEC over KeAndre Lambert Smith. Kyle, I hate this.
If he got close, Mike, you knew if he got close, they were going to give it to him. Like, if he got close, he was going to get it. And he did have a couple of really incredible highlight reel catches. And KeAndre Lambert Smith did too. But you knew if they got close, he was going to get it.
For our listeners on pod, KeAndre Lambert Smith finished the season with 50 receptions for 981 yards and 8 touchdowns. He averaged 19.6 yards per catch. Ryan Williams finished the season with 5 less, 45 receptions for 857 yards. That's over 100 less yards. Also 8 touchdowns at 19 yards per catch. Flat. It's clear to me who had the better season. I think that I would argue KeAndre meant more to Auburn than Ryan Williams did to Alabama. Both meant a lot to their teams, but I'm giving the edge to KeAndre. Probably the best pickup at that position in the portal anywhere in college football. Do you agree, sir?
100%. 100%. And hey, look, let's just say for all intents and purposes, those numbers are essentially the same. They're not incredibly far off. The big key here is the drops. Okay.
That's I think right.
we looked it up. Ryan Williams had, I think, 7 or 8 drops this year.
A big one in the Iron Bowl.
A huge one.
And a fumble.
And then KeAndre Lambert Smith had how many drops?
He had 3 on the season. Phenomenal.
So if tie, let's just say it's not a tie, but let's just say it's a tie on stats. Let's go to drops as the tiebreaker. And Ryan had double the drops as KeAndre Lambert Smith. Like, to me, it's really a joke. It's not even a competition. It's KeAndre Lambert Smith had the better season, and he had one of the better seasons in Auburn history at wide receiver, especially the recent history. It's just shame he didn't get over 1,000, but he got robbed big time.
Auburn has not had a 1,000-yard receiver since 1999. That is Ronnie Daniels. They had a couple guys get close. Darvin Adams, I think 997. Sammy Coates got up
close.
there. Yeah, got close. Other than that, it's been some 700-800-yard receivers here or there. But in a Hugh Freeze system, that's what you expect. You expect to have guys star at the wide receiver position, and KeAndre Lambert Smith certainly did that. Cam Coleman is clearly, I think he's gonna do it easily next year. He finished with 600 yards in his first season.
Right at 600 yards.
Yeah, like just insane for his freshman year, given the volume that he got the ball as well, too. Because if you look at, his catches versus, going into that Iron Bowl, I think he had 23 receptions on the year. I think he finished just under 30. Look, man.
I would wager that 75% of those happened in the last 3 games of his reception. Like, he went off the last 3 games.
Well, they put an emphasis on getting him the ball over down the stretch, which I think was really important to the re-recruitment of this room. You need proof of concept, and showing them that down the stretch certainly helped. But also for guys like Perry Thompson, who are waiting their turn, he was a top 30 overall guy, Kyle. And it is easier to tell him just you're up next when the guy in front of him is KeAndre Lambert Smith. This is really important. I think when that guy in front of you is more experienced, but he is mediocre, it's hard to tell top 30 kid, to wait his turn. And I mean, advantage Hugh Freeze in this position that he had guys that were performing ahead of his talent freshman at that position.
Exactly. It's a lot easier to wait in line if you know you got that potential waiting on you. And I think what's going to happen is I think Cam may slide over to the KeAndre Lambert Smith role, and you put Perry over to the old Cam role, because Perry, that's going to give him a little bit more off the line of scrimmage sets where he doesn't have to worry about getting off that jam. And he can, because I think that may be something he struggles with early. But yeah, I think it's so much easier to say, look, that's 1,200. That's 14, almost 1,500 yards receiving between those two guys right there. And one of them's gone. So it's got to go somewhere. You know what I mean? And it's a lot easier, like you said, it's a lot easier to sell that than if you couldn't move the ball through the air. It would make, I would be looking around.
Yeah, definitely. Look, lots of exciting news coming in the portal. I want to thank you for joining me today. Before we get out of here, tell people where they can find you.
Absolutely. You got to go. You got to sign up for thebarnauburn.com. The $1 membership goes away on Thursday. Okay. The $1 for initial 1 month membership goes away on Thursday. We have the portal super thread, mega thread, and it's like 30 plus pages long right now. And we're just constantly updating it with new information as soon as it goes in. There's so many fun quotes that people are talking about from information from there. You need to check it out. Get in while you can. Again, you can check it out for $1 for one more day. So dive in while you can and have some fun. And then obviously you can catch me anywhere you get a podcast, the Top Button Podcast.
Look, the Barn is a great place. Of all places on the internet, you can go to talk Auburn football. I love it. The conversations are moderated, lots of great information. And for $1 right now, you cannot beat the community that you're getting at the Barn. Please help them out and go sign up. Help us out after the video by hitting that comment section and letting us know, who do you want to see at quarterback? Is it Malik Murphy? Is it Ashton Daniels? Is it Jackson Arnold? Let us know in the comments after the video. Also hit like and subscribe and help us out in the algorithm. That's it for another great edition of the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. Follow us on social media at the War Report, every social media platform. TW Report on TikTok. Guys, that's it. We'll be back at you guys tomorrow with more Auburn Express.